the more you can listen to your friends and hear what they're experiencing, using some of those like active listening skills. So pausing and letting them share and being receptive without providing judgment or value. That tells your friends that, I can go to this person and I can talk to them when I am in, difficult situations or places where I'm struggling.
You're listening to the Lowdown podcast, brought to you by Sigma Kappa National Headquarters staff. We'll focus on topics like health, wellness, the fraternity and sorority community, higher education, and life skills that women need in all stages of their lives. We'll also feature stories from inspiring and empowering Sigma Kappas. Check out the Sigma Kappa website for regular updates and new episodes.
Hi, and welcome back to the Lowdown podcast. I'm Morgan Negri, the Director of Multimedia Design on staff at Sigma Kappa.
And I'm Annika Dellert, the e-learning manager on staff here at Sigma Kappa National Headquarters. Today, we're joined by Amy Gatto of Active Minds, who's here to talk a little bit more about mental health and our new partnership. Amy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thanks for having me, all. I'm glad to be here. My name's Amy Gatto. I'm the Director of Research and Evaluation at Active Minds. We're the nation's premier mental health nonprofit supporting youth and young adult mental health. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. We're so happy to have you. Would you be able to tell us a little bit more about Active Minds and why it was founded?
Yeah, of course. So at Active Minds, we are working to speak openly about mental health, create communities of support, encouraging each other to get help when needed, and taking action for suicide prevention. Together, we're changing the conversation about mental health. We do that through peers on college campuses, in the community, at home, in the workplace. So Active Minds was established in 2003, and our founder and executive director, Allison Malman, she was a college student at the time. During that time, her brother, Brian, was suffering from depression and ultimately died by suicide. As a college student herself, Allison recognized the need that college students have to talk about mental health concerns. And she realized, what if someone had been there for Brian and asked him questions and checked in on him? Maybe his trajectory would have been different. So she started talking to people about mental health. We started collegiate chapters. So similar to the chapter structures of Sigma Kappa, right? These communities on campuses where students can talk to each other about mental health, where they can advocate for themselves, where we can create campus communities that are more supportive of mental health. We've grown. We have chapters across the country serving multiple people. I think recently we did the math and we've served over 1.7 million people.
Oh, wow.
With Active Minds programming and initiatives. We've expanded beyond the chapter network. We're in K through 12 schools. We're in the workplace. We know that mental health is important across the lifespan, and we continue to grow there.
That's awesome. Thank you. That's a really noble mission. What a great story behind that.
Yeah, and to talk about the collegiate chapters that are within Active Minds, if we have our Sigma Kappa chapters and they're interested in finding out if there's an Active Minds chapter on their campus, how would they go about doing that?
That's a great question. So all of our chapters are on our website, activeminds.org. If you're a Sigma Kappa member who is interested in starting a chapter, right? So all you have to do to start a chapter is be on a college campus. And you can start it with some of your friends, your peers, your colleagues, your sisters, and start to make this change. Or you can connect with existing chapters. So on our website, you can always reach out to any staff at Active Minds, and we're happy to help make a connection for you because we know that there's a lot of value in working together and working with people who are interested in mental health on campus can really help connect students and normalize the conversation.
Yeah, that's great. It really sounds like our own Sigma Kappa collegiate chapters really have a neat opportunity here to partner with the chapters that might already be on their campus of Active Minds and collaborate to bring even bigger events and more awareness and knowledge to their campus and community. So that's really
for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, let's talk about maybe some of the warning signs. So, we know that it's not always easy to see when someone is suffering in silence. So, what are some of those warning signs to look out for that we can equip our members with?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a really great question. So there's so many things that we can look out for in our friends and our sisters when they could be suffering in silence, right? Um, one of Active Mind's signatures programs is called Validate, Appreciate, and Refer. And that's just about embedding checking in on mental health in everyday conversation. So when I think about VAR, validate, appreciate, refer, it usually starts with the how are you? And
Yeah,
so before we get to warning signs, it's just checking in, seeing that person as a human, noticing if someone's under more stress than normal, if they're making any problematic statements, and asking how they are and really digging into it, saying, but really, how are you? Or if someone comes back and says, oh, I'm really stressed, I have all this going on, you know, appreciating what they share with you and then connecting them to appropriate resources or serving as a safe place where they can share these concerns. So, I always like to, before we get to warning signs, think about, well, how do we just integrate mental health conversation in everyday language
that's
before,
good.
before someone gets there for crisis, right? And then, there's other very clear warning signs that you can start to look for within your friends and sisters. Some of those would be, has their involvement changed? Are they withdrawing? Or really just their behavior changed? Are things atypical? Are they, using some risky or less healthy coping strategies? Um, are they talking about signs of stress and distress in their life? Are they making any worrisome or problematic statements? So, really noticing these changes, but also know that not everyone is going to show these changes. And so, the more we can normalize mental health as part of everyday conversation, and the more you can listen to your friends and hear what they're experiencing, using some of those like active listening skills. So
Mhm.
pausing and letting them share and being receptive without providing judgment or value, that tells your friends that, I can go to this person and I can talk to them when I am in, difficult situations or places where I'm struggling, or these are the people I can go to, and they should be your sisters, right? That I can go to and talk about, this, and they'll help me get the help and support I need. So some of that might be going to a counseling center. It might be just checking in with someone and they're saying, I'm so stressed. I'm really struggling writing this paper. They might need to go to a campus writing center or academic support service or talk to their advisor. So just because someone's disclosing some of these sources of stress to you doesn't mean you have to solve the problem, but it does mean that you can help them on their journey, and it might be connecting them with an appropriate support or resource.
Yeah, I think that's so important to like make that distinction, right? Like first and foremost, being a good friend means being an active listener and taking time out to actually talk to people. And then it's important too to say like it's not your job to fix a mental health crisis because I don't know about, I mean, maybe you, Amy, but for the rest of us, like I'm not equipped to do that. So making sure that like you're pointing them to good resources and listening to them so they feel like they're supported on all fronts. I feel like that's so critical.
Yeah, it's so important to know we all have mental health, right? Not everyone is diagnosed with a,
Yeah.
a mental health illness or disorder, but we all have mental health and we can support each other's mental health. We can work to protect it and promote it equally. So, and you don't have to always be the solution. Sometimes the
Yeah.
solution is a listening ear.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to jump in and also mention that the resource that Amy mentioned, the Validate, Appreciate, Respond resource, we do have in for our Sigma Kappa members within our learning center. So that is easily accessible to find that link to take you to the official Active Minds website to be able to access the actual resource. So any of our members are able to do that and take advantage of the great tools that are created by Active Minds.
Yeah, great plug. That's really important.
Yeah. And we're so glad y'all are able to share that with your members and provide it. What we found is for students, it's a great resource, but you can use it when talking to faculty. You can use it when talking to friends. So it's just a really, really great tool all around.
Yeah, absolutely. I also think of all of our alumni of the organization and how many of them are volunteers and are either working with our college age students, or how it can even apply for their own lives and, their personal lives, their work lives, their Sigma Kappa volunteer lives, whatever it might be. So it's just really neat to see how, transferable all of this is, because as you mentioned, everyone has mental health, but we can all support it. We can all give time and space. So I'm really excited for our members to have direct access to all of this.
Yeah. That's like you say, Annika, like everybody has mental health. I feel like a lot of the times we have these conversations and we're kind of like more outwardly focused, like, oh, how can I help? And how can I make sure that I'm recognizing when other people need these things? And I think that there's sometimes like this lack of maybe I'm outing myself, of self-awareness. And that where it's like, well, how do I know when I'm struggling, if it's time to seek help? What do I need to know about me? And like, what are my first steps when I get there?
Yeah, that question of like, when do you seek help is so important. Like, when do you seek help? Where do you go? And so it can be different things, right? So a lot of times there's strategies you can start to integrate. We hear a lot about self-care and taking care of yourself, meditation, mindfulness, exercising, integrating those in your routine. But sometimes, especially for mental health diagnoses, that's not enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you want to reach out for support. So identifying those support structures, whether it's, friends, family, academic faculty, professionals, clergy members, just those people who you can go to that you can talk about. Really talking to them and asking for help can be really hard, but it also can be one of the first steps to open you up to getting the help that you need. So when do you know if it's time? It differs for every person, but if you're noticing, changes in how you're feeling, if you're missing out on events or things that typically once, made you feel a certain way aren't making you feel that way anymore. If the self-care strategies you're using, you're not seeing changes for, those would be signs that you should probably go talk to a trained professional. I also want to say you can get a checkup, like a mental health checkup, to meet with a counselor. A lot of campuses have coaches for well-being, right? And we could use the word well-being holistically. It's not just mental health.
Yeah.
But taking these steps really normalizes it, right? It's saying, I maybe feel off, or I'm going through a breakup, or I'm away from home for the first time, or I'm getting ready to graduate and I don't know what I'm doing with after graduation, and that worries me. So you can go talk to professionals for situations. You can talk to them for overall feelings. One of the great things about being on a college campus is you typically have access to a lot of individuals who are there and want to set you up for success academically, but as a whole person. And so much of that is mental health. And the other thing is a lot of campuses do have resources to support student mental health. So if you are curious about those, it's definitely checking what resources does your campus have? How can you effectively use them to protect and support your mental health?
Mm-hmm.
I'm so glad that you mentioned talking to someone, because it's such a great reminder for our Sigma Kappa members also about our partnership with Talkspace. So that is also available to all Sigma Kappa members, and particularly for our undergraduate members. They get 3 months free of Talkspace services, and that's every single year. So if you join Sigma Kappa as a first year, you can get 3 months of the service for free your first year, second year, third year, fourth year, fifth year, however long you're an undergraduate student. And then for all of our alumni of the organization, there's a discount code that's provided for them to get services too. So I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because that is another big partnership that we have to really prioritize the mental health and needs of our membership.
That's something that's so important is, Sigma Kappa is prioritizing and providing resources and normalizing mental health as part of the college experience, part of your collegiate experience, part of your graduate experience, right? And you're providing resources so people can take care of themselves, which is really powerful when you think of organizations to support you.
I like what you said about like mental health needing to be just as important to us as like a regular health checkup, because it is overall wellness and overall health. It really shouldn't be so separated in our minds of like, okay, well, I'm going to take care of, say, a broken ankle. Hopefully you would take care of that. And then, but, oh, I'm going through a really hard time and have been going through a hard time for like 3 or 4 months. I don't know. And like that level of like, sitting on something that is causing pain and is not really working and is impacting your quality of life. I think that that's important to remember. Like, it doesn't have to be like that. There are resources. And I know that a lot of listeners might not necessarily be Sigma Kappas. We're partnered with Talkspace. I still think that they're a really good resource. So even if you don't get those benefits, there's still like a lot of opportunity for them. And I know that they offer like a lot of support just overall.
Yeah. And there's a lot of resources available. So,
Yeah.
I think one thing that's so important, and I wish we at Active Minds, we do tell a lot of our collegiate chapter members this, but when you go talk to someone, the first person you talk to doesn't have to be the person that you're talking to forever.
Yeah.
You might not mesh or jive with them, and there's options. So, explore those different options, those different avenues. It might be a campus counseling center. It might be through the partnership you all have. It might be an off-campus provider. It might be a clinician that you've seen from high school. You might ask for referrals in the local community. It could be other resources that work for you, but what you're looking for in that therapeutic relationship is one that works for you to protect your mental health. So it's kind of like a job interview where you're interviewing,
Yeah.
the right fit.
That makes a lot of sense. There's no one size fits all approach to like mental health. And I think that that's also a trap we fall into a little bit of like, oh, I went to therapy, it worked for me, or I feel like I hear this more often. Oh, I didn't need therapy. I don't know. So I think that's really important to make that distinction too. If something didn't work for you, it doesn't mean that you can't get something that will. And that treating it like a job interview. I love that for some reason. I'm like, yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah, that point where mental health solutions aren't a one size fits all approach, right? And this goes to that validate, appreciate, refer training too, right? Like
Yeah.
when you are listening to a friend, just because something worked for you, or maybe your situation was different, it doesn't mean that that's going to work for your friend. And by referring, right, or encouraging them to seek help, having options, really help works when it resonates with the person who's looking for it. So, being that friend is encouraging help seeking, but recognizing it might not look exactly like it looked for you. And that's okay, but good for your friend for seeking that help.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Amy. I was thinking that we've gone through a ton of resources today. We will have them all linked in the bio of the podcast description. So we will have more information about our Sigma Kappa's partnership with Active Minds, and we'll have more information for Talkspace for you in there. Amy, was there anything else you wanted to plug in that might be a good resource?
So, I think that there are some tremendous resources that students can use on our website.
Mm-hmm.
I want to highlight a few that are really action oriented. So, when a lot of the students we work with, they want to do something, right?
Yeah.
So you can listen to your friends, you can make referrals, but so much of what you do on campus is changing the environment and making sure that your campus community is supportive of student mental health. So, a couple of guides we have on there relate to changing policy. So, adding, crisis numbers on student ID cards, which we've seen
Oh,
tremendous success for students leading that charge, right? It doesn't have to be done by administration, and students can say, this is something that's important to us. So, we have policy change initiatives. We also have an Active Mind Stress Less Week toolkit. And that can help you plan events for the greater campus community. So, when I think of our fraternity and sorority life organizations, there's so much power in the community, and we can make change and start this conversation there. So, using the Stressless Toolkit is a really great way to, you know, most college students have experience with stress. Most people have experience with
yeah.
stress, right? And we can start conversations about mental health by talking about stress because it's a collective experience that happens on college campus. And there's lots of events and ideas and programming around there. And then there's another one for Active Mind Spirit Week. So, we're proud of the work that we do and the impact that we make for our collegiate chapter members on college campuses and for young adults as a whole. And our Spirit Week guide really helps people celebrate the Active Mind spirit on their campus. So I want to highlight those resources if you're listening and you're like, well, what can I do? I think having access to VAR through Sigma Kappa is a great tool and training for your own knowledge. And if you want to start expanding your reach on your campus community, checking out some of these other resources, whether it's policy change to advocate for better supports for mental health, or even events and promotion to highlight the need for mental health on college campuses and to change the conversation among your peers is an incredible place to start.
Oh, I love all that. That's awesome.
Yeah, those are great. They really sound like very robust resources that our members can take a look at, or truthfully, anyone that's listening into this podcast can take a look at. I'm sure that the Stress Last Week toolkit is even more relevant right now since we're around
Yes.
final exams, wrapping up the academic year. So that is fantastic. There's one more resource that I'm hoping you might be able to share a little bit more with our listeners about. So May is Mental Health Awareness Month, as we all
Yes.
know. And there is a new resource that Active Minds has released this month that is around microaggressions. So I was wondering if you could just touch on that a little bit.
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. So it is Mental Health Awareness Month. We have Mental Health Plus as our national campaign, and it really focuses on different ways that you can address mental health. So getting into nature, doing different things to protect yourself. With Mental Health Month, we have recently released our Calm tool addressing mental health microaggressions. It's incredible. It's beautiful. You can find it on our website. And what I love about it is when we think about microaggressions, so these overt or covert acts
Mm-hmm.
that can lead to negative feelings. We don't always think about the mental health comments that we make.
Yeah.
And when we're doing things like talking to our friends or peers or supporting mental health, there can be a disconnect between what we're saying and what we actually mean. So, for example, some of these phrases can really perpetuate mental health stigma and negative perception of mental health. So, using this calm reparative model can just help you assess or reflect on what you were saying, why you said it, where it came from, and then start to make strides to repair the relationship with the person so you don't continue to perpetuate any of the negative, stigma or ideas. And what I like about the Calm tool is there's concrete examples. So it can be challenging to think of things in the abstract. But when we look at them, a lot of times you'll read them and say, I didn't even think about this, right? Like, I never thought that this would be a mental health microaggression. But when you read through the tool, you're like, well, this makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And what we found from students who've started to use it is they're changing their vernacular, the way that they're speaking, because they don't want to make these microaggressions. So yes, we would love for you all to share that with, I think this is one of those resources that's beneficial for students, anyone listening, professionals, and you can use it wherever you are. It doesn't matter what you're doing. We can all take a step back and say, is what I'm doing perpetuating stigma, or am I being part of the solution and changing the dialogue? So I'm establishing a community and an environment that's inclusive of everyone, no matter what their mental health is.
That's awesome. I think that there's the wide range of resources we've talked about today is a little bit astounding. I think that there's been, like how to impact change on campus, how to impact change within yourself. And then this is just like how to be like an overall better person moving forward and like keep stigma out of your language. And I think that it's just incredible. All of the work that the programming team, which is Annika, and you have done, Amy, with Active Minds is just really amazing. And I'm so glad that we get to be a part of that with you.
Yeah, I'm really glad we get to share all this with you all and all your listeners. I think these are really great and really helpful tools, no matter where you are on your mental health journey, and whether you're looking for support for your own mental health or you just want to support others who are around you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It was awesome getting to talk to you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate this. And I'm so glad we can share all this information with your network. And if you're unfamiliar with Active Minds work or curious about more, I really invite you to check out our website at activeminds.org.
Yep. And like I said before, all of these resources will be in the link in our bio. So thank you guys so much for listening. We'll catch you next time.